All right, so as mentioned, we will be recording. I'm the only one who's going to be on camera, but feel free to ask questions and um, we'll just treat this like it's not recording. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for the intro. As mentioned, the focus of this is going to be on optimizing your Google business profile. So, and for the recording, we are translating, so we'll have a little bit of a pause here and there. Note that while the emphasis will be on the World Cup, this same basics can apply to Seahawks games, Mariners games, whatever it might be. But the core topic will be the World Cup. So any questions before we get started? Right. Okay. So as mentioned, Google Business Profile, the core local search engine optimization. So local is going to be a little bit different than your general SEO, where it's focused on search terms with identifiers of location and relevance. So think Lumen Field, Seattle, near me, anything that kind of identifies with a location. And one thing that kind of stands out with local SEO is distance is one of the more important things. So, you're not going to search something and something in Idaho is not going to show up, right? It's going to be within your area, especially with those near me searches. So, obviously, location is important, distance, relevant. So, somebody searching for coffee or curry in the National District, they're going to get searched something like that as opposed to, ice cream. And then prominence. So, prominence is kind of how your profile is viewed by Google. So if it's active, if there's reviews, and then we'll get into definitely a little bit more about that. But ultimately, Google wants to show businesses that are engaged and open. They don't want people going to businesses that are closed. So it's really important to just keep your profile up to date and update it as much as possible. Okay, so when we're thinking about a Google business profile, there are really the essentials of what it shows and provides. So if we think about name, address, phone, you'll hear that a lot, like that, the NAP. It's really important to make sure that that's consistent across Google, Facebook, Instagram, your website, because Google kind of looks at all those things and they want to make sure that they're showing, again, a real up-to-date business. If you have a website, making sure that it's displayed, and then, hours are really important too, especially for the World Cup. If you're going to have special hours for the games or special events, making sure that those are updated is going to be really important. Reviews, making sure that they're highlighted, really important things on your menu. And then, the most important thing about the Google Business Profile is if you want to show up in Google Maps, you have to have one. It's the only way to show up. So, and it's your way of telling Google, hey, we exist. So, for some more context, we have the local map 3-pack. So if somebody's searching on just general Google, this is where you would show up, could and would want to show up. These 3 top listings are kind of like the bread and butter of what makes this so important. 90% of your clicks are going to come in that top 3. So it's really important to have a really optimized profile to get into that area. Then we have local finder. So that kind of expands the map out. So you can go into it, look throughout the map. And that's where you'll have a little bit more success if you don't hit in that top 3. And then again, in Google Maps. So you want to be up high on the results, but within Google Maps, people can search you. If they're looking for coffee, it's really important that you have information about coffee on your profile. Any questions so far? And then lastly, organic. So outside of the map, you have those organic. This is going to be a little bit more tied to your website than your Google business profile. Still important, but for people on foot, people searching for immediacy, not quite as important. Think about people in kind of that like trip planning mode that are going to be looking for that. And it's a little bit of a different strategy to show up there versus into the Google Maps results. Okay. So another thing to note, this week is going to be a little bit more high level. Next week, we're going to really dive in and like have more examples of how to actually optimize. But if there are questions that we want to go deeper today because it's a small group, feel free to ask questions. All right, so here we have two profiles. One on the left, one on the right. I guess if we have anyone who wants to be brave, like what do you notice of what stands out? And what might make it good versus not as good?
The Seattle pinball is show right away what is it inside, but one world, I don't even know where is it. It's just outside of the building.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first thought too, is, with the profile, you're able to pick a cover photo, and that photo is super important to highlight like what is your business, right? So yeah, like I know exactly what the Seattle Pinball Museum is. I have no idea what the One World Museum is. You can also notice that there's a biography at the bottom, right? It's only a snippet of it, but again, it gives a little bit more context behind what exactly this profile is and where it is, what people can expect when they get there. And again, though that does a couple things. It helps somebody who gets there, and it helps somebody get there, right? Without those data points, nobody's going to find your profile. But to me, the most important thing that stands out is reviews. Seattle Pinball Museum has over 1,000 reviews, where One World now has 2. With Google Business Profile, there's kind of 2 magic numbers. There's 10 and there's 100. Once you hit 10, Google like accepts you into their world. And then once you get to 100, it's okay, this business is serious. We need to show more and more. Okay. So we talked about those near me searches, right, as being the most important, and people in real time trying to find your business. So how do you show up? Like what do you do? What do you put into your profile? Obviously having an optimized profile is going to be the most important thing, and we'll get into that. With that, right, it's using local landmarks, phrases, Fast Ice Cream in International District, near Lumen Field, near the park, right? Things that people might be searching other than just Seattle or near me. It's really important to have those in and throughout your profile, including directions. So steps away from the post office, take I-90, get off at whatever exit, different ways that people can get there, light rail, whatever stop you're closest to. The more information you can provide that somebody might be searching, just the better off you're going to be. And then creating event theme pages or posts. So, obviously with the World Cup coming up, if you plan on hosting, or even if you don't plan on hosting World Cup events, there's an area, and we'll get into it, on the profile where you can post about these events, whether it's happening at your business or just in the area. So I know that the International District will be hosting events, viewing parties. So you can actually just post about it, link to that, and then just, again, it's a signal to Google, hey, this is an active business. We wanna show up. And then this last one is a little bit more website related. But ultimately you have the opportunity to actually implement a map, a Google map on your website, through it's called schema markup. And then this way, basically your page is highlighted as a connection with your Google Business Profile. All right. So again, when we're thinking about optimizing your profile, there are like, I'm going to say like, this is the most important thing. That's the most important thing. The few things that really stand out, like consistency. So name, address, phone. So if, you're Ringo Curry, but on Instagram, you're Ringo Curry Shop, and Facebook, you're Ringo Curry Unlimited, right? Like that's not great. You want to be as consistent as possible. So if it's Ringo Curry Shop, you want to make sure that that's what's identified across the board, right? Um, whether it's spaces, names, but just being consistent. Same with address, right? Suite versus ST, street versus STREET, right? Like again, just making sure it's consistent. And then with phone number, that one gets a little dicey because obviously there's different numbers that you might want people to reach if you're trying to get them to do takeout or back office, but as much as possible, just using a consistent phone number across the board. Um, Within your profile, you have the opportunity to choose categories. Generally, they're, broad restaurant, but sometimes it can get a little bit more specific, sushi restaurant, um, steakhouse, things like that. So it's really important that you choose the correct category. And if there's other categories, you can have up to usually 4 or 5. Um, and then content, like this is one of those where you're really giving Google a signal that this is something that, this is a business that is up, it's running. If somebody comes to my business, they can expect us to be open. So updating new photos of your interior, your exterior, your menu items. If you have videos are great. And then obviously like encouraging people to upload photos as well. That goes a long way as well. For the World Cup, if we can have them, if you can start including photos with a World Cup banner at the bottom or a viewing party for the World Cup, right? Just having those iterations of your photos that will start to help you climb up those rankings as people start searching. We talked about business hours, right? And like again, that's going to be super important for match days or like events that are happening in the area. If you're not usually open till midnight, but you're going to be for a game that day, make sure that your profile lists it. And then same with holiday hours and content information, just making sure that it's as up to date as possible. In the about section about your business, you're given 750 characters, and it's really important that you use all of those. A lot of profiles will see somebody use 100 or just a quick paragraph. Use as many as you can. Talk about your business. Talk about the owners. Talk about the upcoming World Cup, the events that you have planned. There's really no limitation, but really the most important thing is that you use all 750 characters. And then again, just including images of the actual products that you sell and offer, whether it's, food, drinks, or anything that you might sell. And then obviously relevant keywords. So knowing that the World Cup is coming up and that's going to be an important boost of searches, we want to start to figure out how are people going to be looking for your business? And a lot of it's going to be, restaurants open late after World Cup, near Lumen Field, and you're just going to need to have those in your profile throughout. Any questions on this portion? Okay. So we talked about reviews. It's probably, if you're going to take anything away from today, like reviews are the single most important aspect of the Google Business Profile. And what's even more important is that it's consistent. So if one day you just got 100 reviews and never got another review again, that's kind of a red flag. But if you can get consistently, one a day, one a week, and they just consistently add up, that's a much stronger signal to Google. So, don't be afraid to ask your customers for reviews. Make it easy, right? So on Amazon, you can buy one of those cheap placards that you can scan a QR code, or you can provide a link very easily. And just ask people to do it. You know, people are usually pretty happy to do it. And then, you know, at the same time, include information that you want them to talk about. So if, you know, you have a popular dish or a popular item, ask them to review that versus just your general business, right? Because then that starts to be highlighted, right? So as people search that item, your profile gets more and more of a boost. And then something that gets overlooked a lot is responding to reviews. So it's really important to respond to any review that comes in, whether it's positive or negative, you know, thanking them for their feedback, thanking them for coming in, and then again, responding with, you know, thank you for coming in to Ringo Curry, the best restaurant near Lumen Field, right? Using again those kind of keywords that you're interested in. In doing so, you kind of telling Google this is what we're about. So once you have these reviews, you can use them on your website, on your social, and give them a boost. You know, they're yours, you own them at that point. And then again, we talked about start with 10, then 100, and then after that, just be consistent. Don't get that like one-time boost of reviews and never get another review again. And then as you're like responding to them, it's kind of the same thing. Like obviously, it's a really hard thing to stay consistent on. But if you can respond to them as they come in versus like once a month, just going in and responding to them all, you're better off doing it that way, right? So, but responding at all is going to be better than not responding. Right. So updates, it's a feature within the profile. This is your opportunity to share with Google kind of what your business is about, what's happening, exciting things in the area, exciting things in your business. For the most part, most people don't really interact with this. It's a Google signal. But it's a really important one because again, it helps you kind of cheat that keyword search where you're just adding new keywords that can be much more theme based. And this is really going to be really important for the World Cup because then, you know, you don't have to, you know, change your profile from World Cup to Thanksgiving to Christmas. You can keep your profile a little bit more consistent and use the updates as a more like themed, right? So you can talk about the upcoming World Cup stuff. And, you know, obviously, because the World Cup isn't going to be for a little bit, you're probably going to be better off being consistent until we get there. But then as the World Cup actually hits, just adding a heavy boost of World Cup content, right? So if you're thinking, you know, one a week, once we hit April of next year, kind of up it to one or two a week, but just be very focused on the World Cup. And you can repeat content, but just reword it or rephrase it, right? Kind of just like an Instagram post. And if you are using Instagram, you know, feel free to use the exact same content and just put it here. No need to like recreate the wheel. Any questions about these updates? Little formatting. All right, so within the profile, there's also the Q&A. So generally, it's when a customer comes in and asks a question, you know, is there parking? What's the most popular thing on the menu? At the same time, you can actually go in and ask those questions yourself and respond to them accordingly. So, you know, it's a really good hack going into the profile and talking about, okay, well, where's the best place to watch the World Cup in Seattle? Right? That would be a great question. Answering it obviously with your viewing party or the viewing party in the park, but we're just a walk away. So that is one where you can do all at once. Maybe have 10, 15 questions. If you have it on your webpage already, feel free to just copy and paste them. But asking them and then responding, you know, to your own question is completely okay. Google actually encourages it. And And then you can also look at like the AI portion. You'll see on your profile there can be a summary of like what are people asking about, what do people care about, and then just be proactive and ask and answer those questions throughout your profile. Okay, so then we have local citations. So this is in addition to your Google Business Profile. Really, the key here, and again, we talked about it, is just consistency. So whatever name you have on your Google Business Profile, you want to have on the rest. Be as consistent as possible with address, phone number, hours. Not necessarily saying that you have to have all of these profiles, but when you do have them, just make sure that they're consistent across the board. That's kind of the key to it. Okay, and then so some of the tools that are really good, I really like, and they're pretty basic. So for collecting reviews, we have reviewly.ai. So a lot of your point of sale systems likely offer, an email to send to somebody after they make a purchase. So what Reviewly does is it gives you a link that you can place in those emails, and it provides kind of like a ready-made review that you can kind of ask them to provide. So it just gives that a little like boost of like, okay, this is what I'm asking for. And then local Falcons are kind of help you track it and keep consistent. And then, with embed social, it's across the board, just managing it. So take a look at these. But if anything, they're fairly low costs and for the most part can just help making life easier. But with anything, I think collecting with Reviewly is probably, I think, the most important tool. Okay. So then next week, we're going to be doing a deep dive, and we'll be highlighting everything we talked about today. So I think everyone here already does have a lot of this, but if you have more available, photos, logos, videos, we can walk through how to upload them. I think next week, having a device that you can access your profile would be helpful. You have your website and access to it. We'll do a little bit high-level website stuff, and then we'll talk about some event ideas and how to promote your products and just be a little bit more hands-on next time. So yeah, so this week's pretty short and sweet. But yeah, any questions, anything you guys want to dive into a little bit deeper? We definitely have a little bit of time still.
Chad, a question, when is this one happen? When's the World
Cup? June of next year. Is that so? It's about 6 weeks. Yeah, so we have the game schedule, but we don't have the teams who are going to be playing. We know the US will be playing one game, but we don't know against two, and we don't know the other team. So as that information comes in, we'll get a sense of like what other countries and languages will be really popular here. We'll change what we do a little bit.
The US game will be on June 9th. Yeah. But the one we have.
Yeah, but all the events are going to be almost guaranteed to be sold out. So a lot of foot traffic, a lot of out-of-towners. I think the tickets just went on sale. So the lottery is going on right now or just happened. So I think people are starting to get their tickets as we kind of speak. So. All right.
So would it be best to bring a laptop next time?
A laptop, an iPad, something that you can access your website with would be good. Because then we can do a little bit of hands-on. And then with that, yeah, like I said, if you have some photos and a logo, videos, that kind of stuff, if your storefront that you haven't used, or that you're able to get, that would be great. And then, you know, everyone here has, I checked and everyone has a verified Google business profile. So can ignore that part. Just making sure that you have the email that has access to it is important. Because a lot of times, people don't know what email is associated with it. So, yeah, and if you need help, figuring that out, the verification portion, the city of Seattle, is going to offer 10 free hours of consulting. So feel free to reach out and I can help through the ABC program. Especially after the next session as we dive in more. So, okay. Oh, my face is only half on it.
Are there other questions?